Hey everyone, welcome to episode 152. That's right, 152 of the All Dolphins podcast. Omar and I today are joined, as you can see in the box below, by Teron Davenport from ESPN. We'll salute Teron very quickly. Do our
And I
numbers.
seen him when he wasn't ESPN, but he was still
Hey.
glowing up. He was grinding.
Yeah, Senior Bowl.
There you go. And I used to see Teron all the time at the combine.
Yep.
So 52. The first time around, we went with Mike Reichenbach, went a little obscure with a linebacker from the 90s. I'm going to go with another linebacker from the late 1990s, played 3 years with the Dolphins. And I mentioned him because he has a son who played last night for the Jacksonville Jaguars, wide receiver Zay Jones. I'm talking about Robert Jones, linebacker from East Carolina, who the Dolphins got from the St. Louis Rams, who previously had played for Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wanstead with the Dallas Cowboys. Very solid player, started 3 years for the Dolphins.
All right. Now
he had another son that was on the Eagles practice squad too.
He did. Yes, he did. He had three sons who all played or got cups of coffee in the NFL. Zay Jones, the only one left in the NFL.
And Zay Jones, I used to think he was a bad boy. I believe he was on my man crush list for wide receivers. But obviously, a lot of factors come into whether or not a guy succeeds or fails in the NFL. But speaking of succeeding and failing in the NFL, the Tennessee Titans, they aren't exactly circling the drain, but they are in a rebirth kind of as an organization. They've moved on from my guy, Ryan Tannehill, and anybody who heard me say my guy will know that that's a joke. I've never believed in Ryan Tannehill, but I did want him to play in this game because I was intrigued and wanted the Tannehill revenge. But this happens to be the Will Levis era of the Tennessee Titans. Ron, what are your thoughts and views about the direction of that franchise and where it's headed with Will Levis as a starting quarterback?
Yeah, first and foremost, I will say that they are in really good shape with Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel leading the ship. And there's a lot of rumors and stuff about them supposedly having a power struggle, about them being at odds. And a lot of the people saying that, they're the ones that probably watch like Lifetime and Bravo, and they just have a thirst for drama. I'm probably the only person to sit down with Rand and have him look me in the face, and sit down with Mike Vrabel and have them look me in the face. And they both told me that there's no issue. So I want to start with that. Right. Because, that's something that needs to be clarified. I actually had a story I posted this morning, about their relationship and where the organization is going. So you start with that. And then you look at Will Levis, Mike Vrabel. One of the things that he always loved about Tannehill was the toughness. Right. And that's something that Tannehill really he showed in 19 and 20. And it's funny because that's the first thing he talks about when you ask him about Will Levis. So you got that. And then just the ability to push the ball. Like, there's no part of the field he can't throw the ball to. So they're in good shape there. I think you look at the weapons. DeAndre Hopkins is still an excellent receiver. He just bumped up to 28th all time in receiving yards with 12,075. And you got that, but the problem is the O-line. So I think if you talk about Levis, you got to talk about that protection first. That's the big issue, and that's where the breakdown is.
Titans usually have traditionally had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. What went wrong in this year?
Well, there was, how players get that first round grade on them, like they have that sticker, and then you always want to take a chance on that talent. And Andre Dillard, they signed him to a 3-year, $29 million deal. He was going to be the left tackle, and like, I don't like to rag on a player, so I'll just kind of put it like,
but you're going to. Go ahead.
He's not good. Like, that's like the easiest way to put it. He's just not good, and so that failed them, and that's where the major breakdown was. Taylor Lewan, he had the injury. He had a ACL. It was the second time he tore his ACL in 3 years, and he weighs like 250 pounds right now, and he's not doing anything other than what you guys are doing, podcasting. So
yeah,
it just was a breakdown. In their center, Aaron Brewer, there's been some issues there. Right tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere, he got suspended the first 6 games, and then he got a shoulder injury, and he's out. So it's just it's been a bad situation. Now they got Jalen Duncan. They drafted him out of Maryland. He and you guys know, from the Senior Bowl, like he stood out. So he's the left tackle now. and he and Peter Skoronski, who they picked at 11, that left side is good, especially from a run blocking perspective. But I think Chubb, the astronaut, I think he's going to have a good game this week, against that offensive line.
So, Ron, here's the thing, though. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like the Titans were like 7-4 last year until it all blew up, fell apart, and then this year they're 4-8. I mean, is it as simple? It was just injuries.
It's injuries. It's the ball not bouncing your way. Like most of their, so they lost 8 games. I want to say 5 or 6 of those games have been by 1 score or less. Look at the game that they played against the Colts last week. Like it's 25-21. You have 2 block punts, 1 for a touchdown. The other one puts them in field goal range, right? The Colts were in the red zone, and not only the red zone, low red zone, inside the 10-yard line. 4 times they scored 1 touchdown, but that touchdown was the go-ahead touchdown in overtime. You know what I mean? So you look at that, and like that's the type game that this team, other than the Browns, Cleveland spanked them. There were like 2 or 3 games where they got spanked, but everything else has been close. So it's one of those things where you have a team that if they could just find a way to win in the margins, that record would be totally different. But you know what they say about if, right? If and the aunt, and I'm gonna leave all that out. You know how the aunt could be an uncle. If.
Listen, but I'm always puzzled by the lines. I look at these lines that they give the Dolphins, and yes, I've covered the Dolphins for 15 years. I've covered the Dolphins for 15 years, so I'm not used to 13-point lines.
Yeah,
is that a reasonable line without Jeffrey Simmons and maybe without Derrick Henry? And I don't know the status.
It's very reasonable. I'm not allowed to bet on football, but I'll probably take that line. Because Jeff is going to be out for 2 weeks at least, and that's the emotional leader of that defense. You know what I mean? He's the one when they come together on the opponent's logo when they're on the road. He's the one in the circle, and then you pair that with they're just getting over the loss of Kevin Byard. So it's like, I don't know how that defense is going to be.
So, yeah, it was a trade.
Yeah. It was a trade. Yeah. But you're right. You're right.
Urge.
Yeah. And it's, they got a 5th and a 6th. Now they got 8 draft picks, so they could. But that's equivalent to a 4th. And they saved $6 million in cap space. So
$6 million.
It's one of them things,
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
I got another one for you. Teron, has Mike Vrabel ever gotten over the trade of AJ Brown yet?
It's funny because I'm in Philly now, and I was just talking to my homie about that yesterday. I don't think he's ever going to get over that one, man. The way I talked to him after that trade, and he told me, like, he was like, it gutted me. Like, he had a personal connection with AJ, and I don't think the organization has gotten over it either. Because you talk about emotional leaders on defense. Well, he was one of the ones on offense, and he gets you what you call free yards. 5-yard catch ends up being a 60-yard completion touchdown.
Not only that, he had that toughness that really personifies the type of team that Vrabel wants to have. I mean, if there's a Vrabel wide receiver, I mean, he's about it.
That's it. Brings physicality to the passing game, and he liked to block too.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask. So you think that it's very reasonable, a 13-point line? So you're expecting a blowout? Oh yeah, absolutely expecting a blowout. And you look at the receivers, Jalen Waddle. It's funny. You go back, you watch Christian Fulton's senior year, last year at LSU. He put the straps on all of those Alabama receivers. But Chris he had an MRI yesterday. He's dealing with a hamstring issue, and that soft tissue stuff continues to pop up. And when you go on against a guy that got gas like Waddle, hamstring is something you can't be thinking of because you got to run. You got to run, and it's going to be bad. And Murphy Bunting, he's a big Corner. He likes to get hands on the receiver, and if he doesn't, he'll get cooked. And that's what happened last week. And Waddle, Tyreek Hill, those guys, man, road runners. Mm-hmm.
And Omar doesn't want to believe me that when I talk about that, this is okay. Let's look forward to the Jets in week 15, and Omar is accusing me of you got to play every opponent, and everybody can get you.
You do. You do. You got to play every opponent. You can't look past the team. But this is a week they probably it wouldn't hurt them to look past. But you do. You got 1 week at a time. You know how they say.
Man, listen. These lines just make me so uncomfortable. But I get where the organization is. I mean, the Dolphins are one of the top teams in the NFL right now, and they're performing like one of the top teams in the NFL. The question is, can they beat a good team? I mean, that's the narrative that's out there.
Yeah.
But then I make the argument every week. I personally do not believe that there is no such thing as a bad team in the NFL, because anybody can get you on any given week. And I think that the Bengals just showed that when they, the Bengals just showed that. No, what
Bengals were not a bad team, Omar. They were 5-6, not like they were 3-8. They were 5-6, and they went to the AFC Championship game last year. Last I checked.
That's but nine's not playing. You know what I mean? So it's a different ball game. But you still got Chase. But I get what Omar's saying. I get what he's saying, and it makes sense. You can't every week. You're going against people that get paid to play. You know what I mean? Every team has difference makers, so. You can't look past any particular opponent.
And this, I know that there's some issues and some injuries, and that Derrick Henry is a big matchup that's questionable and troublesome for me. Just because if you look at his career against the Dolphins, he has pummeled the Dolphins. It doesn't matter. Anytime the Titans play the Dolphins, they have success in the run game. Dolphins just lost Jerome Baker. Yes, Duke Riley is a capable backup, capable starter, but I'm sorry, I'm a little bit scared of the Titans' run game. And if you want to shorten the game, the best way that you could do that is to run it, the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, well, that's what you have to do. And, Tyjae Spears is a really good player. So he's the rookie out of Tulane. I would expect a heavy dose of him, and he's somebody in the passing game. He gives you an option too. So, that's something you never know, man. Like all it takes is 1 or 2 plays, and next thing you know, it's a whole different ball game. So I just don't see the Dolphins losing this game. Like I don't see how they could lose it, really. To be honest with you.
Gotcha.
And here's the thing is, so Omar and I were straight on this. Is it's not an idea of like Dolphins don't even have to show up. Yes, the Titans could get him, but a hell of a lot of things would have to go wrong for the Dolphins, right? For the Titans. And for example, on defense, I'm looking without Jeffrey Simmons. Who's the player the Dolphins have to concern themselves with? Harold Landry.
Oh, that's easy. Danico Autry, 96. Danico Autry, he's leading the team with 8 sacks. And he's someone that you guys appreciate his play, man. Like he knocks down passes at the line of scrimmage. He's tough against the run. He's a solid player. So that's somebody to watch. They want to get Mostert and A-Chain and those guys rolling. Tier Tart is another one to watch. 93, really good swim move, and he's a guy that constantly is in the backfield. And he's a fellow 215, fellow Philly cat. So I got to give him love. You know what I mean? And he's like, you remember Samuel Adams, like how he used to just disrupt stuff at the line of scrimmage? That's how he is, and he's a really good player. So those are 2 to watch out for.
Let me ask you this question about Derrick Henry's status, and we know he isn't in the concussion protocol, which I think is a little bit questionable and troublesome, just from the standpoint of I don't trust NFL players when it comes to injuries, particularly with concussions. But what can Spears do, or what has he done that makes you feel like he can carry that workload?
Oh, we have a little situation here. Let's see if we can. Should we try to fix this over here?
You got me now?
Yeah.
You're back on the
bad
phone.
The other phone died, man. My cord is messing up, so I'm kind of move. I'm on the move, man, and I didn't bring my charger, so that's.
I hear you. Just had a baby. Yeah, you just came a grandfather. We totally understand. Know what that. With Spears, what can he bring to the game that can add a dimension that the Dolphins, if Derrick Henry cannot go?
Yeah, you know what? I tell you, this would be a really good game for David Long Jr. to show his worth. And I say that because David Long, he's my favorite linebacker in the NFL.
Really?
I love David Long, I love his game. I love the emotion he brings. I love the way that he is able to weave through offensive linemen and get to the running back. He is my favorite linebacker in the NFL. Yeah. So I think this is a week where he could show his value. Now, the reason why I go to him when I'm talking about Tyjae Spears is if the Dolphins, they decide to go to man defense, he probably would be the one that ends up covering Tyjae Spears. And Spears is a guy, like, they'll line him up out wide. They'll motion him into the slot. They use that motion that the Dolphins use, that CFL type motion that they
cheat motion.
Short, yeah, the cheat motion. They'll use that, and he's a guy that they love to get the ball to him in the passing game. But if Derrick Henry doesn't play, he's one that, like, he's good at playing like that peekaboo game where you'll see him, like, put his hand on the offensive lineman's back and pop out whatever side to get into the hole. That's the one thing about Derrick Henry that's different from before is how he used to hit the holes. It's a step slower, and Tyjae Spears, he hits the holes quicker. And I will tell you this, he's one of the most elusive backs in the NFL. He's somebody, if you look at the ratings and stuff, I know a lot of, analytic folks, they like to look at the elusiveness rating and all that. I will guarantee you he's probably like top 5 in that number because he always makes the first man miss. So that's something. He's coming off a career high 16 carries for 75 yards, and he's a big play that's always waiting to happen.
Got to ask you, since you brought up David Long Jr., got to ask you about those comments from Mike Vrabel at the end of last year where he kind of, like, he mentioned him. It was another player. I don't remember who.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, about, like, taking care of yourself so you don't deal with hamstring injuries all the time.
Yeah, soft tissue.
First of all, how uncharacteristic. That's rare of a head coach to call out guys by name like that. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, he called them repeat offenders. That's what he called them.
There you go.
And this is a team that's just been so injury prone. They set a record for most players rostered on game day 2 years ago. And last year they approached that record. It was like 89, I want to say. So he did mention David Long. And, the thing is, David Long had his series of soft tissue injuries. He had a bunch of them. And it's funny because, if I'm not mistaken, he's played in every game down there for the Dolphins. So I don't know if that was a, in-building issue or what it was, but he's played in every game and he's racked up buku tackles. When it comes to just like the way he plays, I know that coaching staff really liked him. Tyrone McKenzie, who coached the outside backers there a couple years ago, was his position coach in Nashville. And I remember when David Long first came, because he was Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. And, like, the league had the nerve to let him fall to, like, the 6th round, which was crazy to me. But I remember when he first got there, and I talked to Coach Ty a lot about him. They really liked him from the rip.
And it's interesting because they don't have him as an every down linebacker. And now that Duke Riley is having to step up for an injured Jerome Baker, it'll be interesting to see if his role shifts and if he also becomes the green dot player. That's something that we're definitely going to look forward to see on Sunday, the evolution of the Miami Dolphins linebackers and their defense, which right now I believe is ranked number 7. Pupar, I said
6 or 7, I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that's your guy too, man. Duke Riley, LSU product. I know that's your man. Yeah.
Let me ask you about. I'm a big draft guy, and I know you're a big draft guy too. Where do you stack up with the caliber of quarterbacks in the 2024 NFL draft? I know guys haven't declared yet, but who do you have your eyes on? Are you a Caleb Williams guy?
Yeah, Caleb Williams, he's the best quarterback. There's not really a conversation to be had. He's the best. I really love Penix Jr., Michael Penix Jr. He's a guy that, NFL coaches and organizations will love because, let's face the facts, this league is about big plays, and he probably, I'll say it, nobody has a better deep ball than him. He was able to, push that ball down the field. Looking like Mark Brunell.
Hold on, you don't think it's because of the conference that he plays in? Because let's not act like they play any defense over there.
Yeah, they don't play defense, but you still got to put the ball in those spots. And, you look every time you see Rome Odunze, you know what I mean? like this, and the ball just dropping perfectly over his shoulder. So, yeah, I mean, you can mention the conference and the lack of defense, but the placement is still there. So, and he's mobile. I like the fact, like, people will hold his injuries against him. He has 2 ACLs, but I like the fact that he went through that adversity and was able to push through it because, you know, no situation to get too muddy for him because he already been in situations where you have football taken from him. I like players that has gone through adversity. So, you know, Penix is legit. Jaden Daniels, who I think should win the Heisman, he's another one to look at. Bo Nix, I mean, like, he's been in college since you know the Expos were playing when he first got to college. But you know, he's still good. He's a really good quarterback too. So.
Hey man, you a good college quarterback. You could make $1 million today in the NIL era. So
right. They're trying to pay Quinn Ewers to come back. You know, that's what Texas is doing. But you got Arch Manning back there. You know, Lil Manning is nipping at his heels.
Obviously, Teron, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you for joining us again. I want to say this segment is brought to you by U-Brake Wheel Fix. U-Brake is your complete wheel repair and refinishing solutions located in North Miami. Over 25 years of experience repairing damaged wheels from cracks and bends. All types of refinishing and repair work can be done at U-Brake Wheel Fix. If you need some assistance, call Mark at 305-748-0112. Teron, obviously, brother, we appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you in South Florida. Thank you for your time, my brother.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be there Saturday. Doing an extended stay this time.
And you're coming in Art Basel week too, so, you know, holla at your boy.
I got you. Appreciate you.
All right, man.
All right,
thanks, Teron.